Welcome to Animation One-to-Ones, brought to you by Squiggly Online Animation Magazine. This is Ben Mitchell, Squiggly Editor-in-Chief, today bringing you a chat between our intrepid contributor Ryan Gaur and Jeff Fowler, director of the live-action animation hybrid Sonic the Hedgehog feature films, the third of the series making its way to cinemas this weekend. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 stars Ben Schwartz as the titular Lipotiflin alongside Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails and Idris Elba as Knuckles, facing off against their new adversary Shadow, voiced by Keanu Reeves, a mysterious villain with powers unlike anything they've faced before. Bogus. With their abilities outmatched in every way, Team Sonic must seek out an unlikely alliance with Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik in the hopes of stopping Shadow and protecting the planet. A plan stymied by the arrival of Robotnik's long-lost grandfather, Gerald, also Carrey. The film marks Jeff Fowler's third feature as director. His prior credits include Where the Wild Things Are, the Oscar-nominated short Gopher Broke, and the 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog game. How appropriate. Let's hand it over to Ryan and Jeff and hear what it was like to return to the world of Sonic once more.
So, I just wanted to start because our chats before have been very focused on very technical stuff. So I wanted to get kind of into your background a bit more and kind of talk about the first thing that kind of made you want to be an animator and fall in love with animation. So do you have a particular memory or film that did that for you?
Absolutely. I mean, you'll probably find it's the case with a lot of folks in the visual effects industry, but Star Wars, the original Star Wars, going back to 1977. I mean, I was born in 78, so a year after that, but I think I probably started watching that movie when I was 3 and never looked back. I mean, it was just, I ground that VHS to a pulp and just fell in love with movies where visual effects were such a strong storytelling tool and component, and just seeing what that could do, you know, for film, and then of course on the animation side of thing, I mean, just the Disney, the sort of golden age of the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, Little Mermaid and Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. I mean, those are films that just really made me fall in love with animated performances. And then in the mid 90s, you just kind of had this fusion of those two worlds. I mean, Toy Story just absolutely sort of solidified my interest in my almost obsession with finding a way to work in that industry. And Jurassic Park, of course, it's like you have these visual effects that are just being used in a way that we had never seen. And I loved film. I loved this emerging technology of computer animation and what that meant for movies. And so, yeah, I knew I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because from the 90s onwards, the amount of animated films that were even made was like 10 times the amount. So you coming into the industry, where did you see yourself kind of fitting in?
I came in as a character animator. I was hired to work on a Disney, it was a direct-to-video Christmas special called Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, and I got to animate with all the classic characters, with Mickey and Donald and Minnie, and it was great. I mean, Disney had sort of hired Blur Studio, which is a company that I was working at the time, to create all this character animation. And Tim Miller, who owned the studio, hired me and brought me in, and I just loved character animation. I loved creating performances, and it was like to get to work with these sort of iconic characters and to actually create, you know, scenes and performances with them was just incredible. And then that kind of rolled very quickly into my work on Shadow the Hedgehog, which was when he got his own standalone game after his debut with Sonic Adventure 2. Sega hired us to create some animation to promote the game, and I was lucky enough to work on it. And then so to be here 20 years later and to be introducing the world to Shadow on the big screen, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about the progression a bit. How does one go from character animator to director of big tentpole animation live action hybrid movie?
There's a few steps in between, but the most important one was probably Blur, where I worked for 15 years. They would do a short film competition. It was something that was just used to kind of promote the studio, our storytelling, and our ability to, because I mean, Blur was a service company, so we were hired to create visual effects by clients, but we were very much a full. I mean, we were creatives in our own right, and we always wanted to prove that we weren't just executing other people's ideas or storyboards. Like, we have our own ideas, we have our own stories, and so out of this short film competition, so I submitted an idea. was probably at the studio for about a year and a half when we submitted an idea called Go for Broke, which actually got selected by the supervisors who voted on all the ideas that were submitted, and so we made it, and I got to direct it. It was a little 4-minute piece, so it was not very long, but I got to sort of use the all the artist resources at Blur. So my crew was, I mean, you've got about 50 or so artists and support personnel, and it got nominated for an Oscar that year, which was incredible. But it was very much, it gave me my first sort of exposure to sort of directing and directing other artists, and just working and collaborating and trying to communicate my vision or my ideas to a team that's trying to tell, help tell the story. And I just fell in love with it. And I love working with artists and with people and getting everyone excited about what we're making. And so just that kind of rolled into, once I had directed that, Tim trusted me with some commercials. And so I got to do more directing projects as the years went by. And all the time we're also, we were trying to get our foot in the door with features and get into the movie world. And yeah, eventually that led to Sonic.
Yeah, I mean, this franchise, its beginning with, let's say a bit turbulent at the start, to get to this point, I think is like a really phenomenal comeback story. How have you found the process? What have you learned about the I guess the art of character design, the art of filmmaking through this kind of 5 years process?
Oh, it's been incredible. And the one thing that I always remind myself and wake up every day is that there's so much more to learn. I mean, you just have to be really hungry to just, I'm always looking for ways to get better, and to push not only myself, but our team to always, with each of these films, I'm just so proud that the look of them is always just elevating, and we're always, we're able to just up the ante every time out. And a lot of that just comes down to this incredible group of people that works with me on these films. I mean, pretty much everyone on the team has been there since the first film. And that sort of shared knowledge and shorthand, I mean, it just really pays off in such a big way. I mean, you know each other so well. It's just, we're able to work very efficiently and very quickly and make big movies in a really effective way.
Yeah, big is a really good way to describe this movie. It really it shoots for the moon in terms of the emotion on Shadow's side, but really shoots for the moon on the cartooniness and the goofiness on the Robotnik side. So how do you go?
And we actually shoot the moon.
You literally shoot the moon.
There's a third side to that.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you just using that as
it was an accident.
It's like right there. Are you going to go for it? Because I'm going to go for that joke if you're not.
It was an accident, actually, but yeah. But yeah, how do you go about balancing those two tones?
I mean, it really is. It's kind of just trial and error, and I think it was something that we were very mindful of. That we have this very dramatic Shadow story that we know fans they are so it's so important to them, and we were very respectful and very aware of how important it was to get it right, and tone. I mean, that really was the most important thing. But these are Sonic films. We also didn't want to suddenly feel like we were completely veering off and making a totally different type of movie. We have Jim Carrey. We have 2 Jim Carreys in this movie, so of course, the fun and the laughter and the comedy, that has to be part of it too. So no, it really just came down to just finding the proper proportions for the film, balancing the tone, not feeling like that it's just swinging one way or the other too much. So and I think we ended up in a really great place. I think the most important part of all of it is the emotion of the story, and I honestly feel like this movie has more emotion and more heart than anything we've done so far.
No, yeah, absolutely, and a lot of that is down to Keanu's performance. He's terrific in the film, and I wanted to ask how much direction you kind of give your actors in the recording booth. Do you kind of let the characters find the role by themselves, or do you give a lot of guidance to?
I like to set them up as best I can with visuals. I feel like having them be able to see the context of the performance, just get an idea. Sometimes those visuals aren't ready yet, and we do just have to go off the script and just off the page. And then, of course, I'm giving them as much information as I feel like they might need in order to be able to modulate and give us the right performance. But oftentimes, we push very hard on the front end, these being such visual effects heavy films, to have storyboards, to have those storyboards edited into animatics that have temporary sound design and sound effects and score and all that, so that you can watch the scene and just really get a sense of what we're going for. I think that it gives you so much more information than just the words on a page. I think I think all the actors find that extremely helpful, just to wrap their heads around, how their performance is going to fit in.
Yeah, I mean, the scale of this movie is so huge, and I feel like the kind of globe-trotting nature of it is something that's quite new for the franchise and quite interesting for the franchise. Did you do any location stuff for this, or was it all in the studio?
We absolutely did some location work. So especially with some of our third act kind of being around the world sort of set pieces. I mean, we sent a team to Iceland to get some sort of volcanic sort of landscape material, which was awesome. In Norway to get some really great sort of mountain sort of vistas. Of course, went to Tokyo, got a bunch of stuff from Shibuya Crossing. And Shibuya Crossing, which is the first time Sonic and Shadow meet, that was sort of a great example of visual effects and what visual effects can do to sort of build out your scene, because that was this combination of an actual, we paved the parking lot at Pinewood and recreated the actual the intersection of Shibuya, so because we know we needed real people, we wanted a crowd when we see Shadow sort of rain soaked and just sort of wandering through the crosswalk. We wanted it to feel like what Shibuya would be, which is a bustling hub of pedestrians and everyone kind of just minding their own business and moving through the rain. So we filmed that element in London at Pinewood, and then we supplemented that with this digital extension, which is the plates that were filmed in Shibuya Crossing in Japan. And then of course we added our little digital characters. So it's just like all these little components, and they all kind of go in and help you build out the scene. And I think that those Shibuya scenes just look amazing, and we really had enough time to really get it dialed in and looking great.
Great. One more fact to let you go. I feel like in animation, a lot of the stories you tell this year particularly are quite small and personal on ground. You think of Wild Robot, you think of Inside Out 2, but this is like a big blockbuster movie that we don't really get in animation too much. Do you think that the live action hybridness of it allows for a bigger scale?
It certainly does, and I think with our being on a third film and having more characters, but also taking the time and allowing the room in the story to tell those very intimate sort of personal moments. I mean, the Shadow and Maria storyline is just, I mean, that was like some of the first stuff we storyboarded, because we just knew how important it was to get that right. And whether it's animation or live action, I think you're not going to go about designing it any differently. But it's nice when you can have dramatic moments between Shadow and Maria hold their own with dramatic moments against Jim and Jim and dramatic moments against Sonic and Shadow. It's like you've got every flavor of emotional moments, right? You've got two CG characters, you've got a human and a CG character, and then you've got two humans. And you want all of those moments to land and feel like they could be part of the same movie and part of the same story. And I really feel like they do. Great. Well, thanks so much for your time. The movie was fantastic. So, of course. Yeah, great. All right. Great to see you, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Jeff Fowler and Ryan Gaur. And Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is out in UK cinemas December 21st. And for more on the film, visit sonicthehedgehogmovie.com. We've got one more podcast coming at you between now and Christmas, so stay alert. It's going to be a fun one. Of course, if you don't want to miss out on any of our wonderful content, keep swinging by the website squiggly.com, SKWIGLY. We're also on Instagram at Squiggly Animation, Facebook.com/Squiggly Magazine, at Squiggly on X. And we're settling in over on Blue Sky. It's squiggly.bsky.social. Little quiet over there right now. Why don't you give us a follow? Cheer us up. It is the holiday season after all. While you're at it, if you're watching this episode on YouTube, why not smash that like and subscribe button? I'm sorry. Until next time, I've been Ben Mitchell. Happy holidays and happy animating.